Monkeyboy's YouTube channel is the best YouTube channel, intersubjectively, stands independently, conceptually, metaphysically, epistemically, and rhetorically. Subscribe to the channel and Patreon.
Jack and Charlie, they were going to run tag against each other.
Okay. If that's where,
well, I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was going to happen.
Yeah, I haven't volunteered for anything here. I'm happy to field any questions somebody might have, but I'm not looking for a fight or anything. I just wanted to come up and offer clarity on the discussion between Tom and Constantine.
Well, I have a question, Constantine.
Sure, what's up?
I was just objecting.
We're on the planet Arrakis, and this is going to be like, give the people what they want, you know? If they want to fight, give the people a fight. And everyone in the comments wants this, Jack versus Charlie. And if we're on the planet Arrakis...
You know my Planet Arrakis rules. My Planet Arrakis rules. So, okay, so you called me out on my own rules, right? I don't know if anyone knows about my Planet Arrakis rules. If I ever pick a fight and I'm losing it, I name my champion. Sometimes I'll just take the hit. But in this case, if Charlie does want to engage in a linear conversation with Jack or someone else, then that is up to Charlie and Jack. I don't appeal to the audience and just put two people in a room and make them fight like pit bulls. However, if there is a conversation that is equally agreed to exchange, then I think it's mutually beneficial for all of us to hear it. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Oh, but check this out. This would be a good time. This would be a good time for me to plug my failing YouTube channel, which is Constantine Dash Chronicles. You can act now and be the 37th subscriber. And just mosey on over there and like some of my videos that are just flailing right now. But all right, anyway. The Black Knight, you'll be over there. Okay, cool. Other than that,
YouTube.com/Tom Rabbit with 3 T's.
Don't follow Tom.
Don't follow Tom.
I mean, that's valid.
Constantine Dash Chronicles. He's got 4 videos on there. It's a week old, 37 subscribers. Act now. You can be number 38. Anyway, continue. Shameless plug.
I mean, you want to put these two on a pedestal, but I did join because I wanted to acknowledge a prompt. Although I will, if they want to speak.
Oh, sure. If you want to, if they're not going to engage each other, then yeah, we can go into the prompt. Go ahead.
Well,
I'll give them a chance.
I was only objecting to the claim that all worldviews are circular. That's it.
You were objecting to the claim that all worldviews are circular? They don't bottom out in circularity?
Yeah, I don't see why anybody would accept that.
How's that possible?
Well, I mean, it's your claim, right? So what's the argument for it?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, when you keep on asking why, you're going to bottom out as self-referent. Whether it be reality is what it is, or God is the foundation, God is God, reality is reality. If you don't start anywhere, you can't do anything. How could you know? You can't know anything without a context.
There are different. I don't know what any of that means, but look, there are people who think that things just bottom out in basic beliefs or propositions, and there are people who believe that there's, infinite, an infinite chain of justifiers. So I don't see why anybody would accept.
How could you have an infinite? If somebody's going to claim that, they'd have to justify that.
I don't know what you mean by justify it. Where's the contradiction?
If somebody says that there's an infinite claim or infinite justifications, right? An infinite line of them. That's something that would have to be. That's something that would have to be justified.
Look,
they couldn't just say it arbitrarily.
Your claim, I take it, is that it's impossible, right? That there could be such a chain, right? That's your claim, right?
Yeah. In order for you to, you can't have a fact without context, right?
Again, I just wanted an answer to that question. That was a yes or no question.
Yeah, that is an answer to the question, Jack.
Sorry,
if there's context, right, that means it bottoms out at the context.
You're not going to answer the question?
Okay. I guess my answer is not sufficient for you, but I'm not sure how it's not sufficient.
I asked you a yes or no question, and I don't know whether you're saying yes or no, so how could it be sufficient?
Do you want to rephrase? Go ahead.
I said, is it the case that it's your claim that there can't be an infinite chain of justifiers? Isn't that your claim?
That seems it to me, yeah.
Great. Now I'm asking you to give the justification for that.
Yeah, because if there's an infinite amount of regression, right, then there's no bottom, there's no starting point. And if there's no starting point, there's no context. And if there's no context, then there's not a meaningful fact.
Okay, look, I don't know what you mean by context. I don't know what you mean by meaningful fact, right? But obviously it just sounds like you're begging the question against the foundationalist view, right? Or an infinitist view.
Okay. I don't think I am.
Look, why don't you explain to us why it is that justification requires what you're calling a context. Explain to us what a context is.
The context would be like reality, right? For that could be a worldview where reality is what it is.
Tell me what you mean by that term, context.
The world in which a claim exists. So, like for an example, the context could be the universe.
The world within a claim exists is the context for what?
The context for a fact. Yeah.
Wait, I thought you.
If I say the chicken crossed the road, the context is the road, the chicken, the atmosphere, everything around it, everything that's composing the world with which the chicken operates.
What does that have to do with an infinite chain of justifiers?
Because if you have an infinite chain of justifiers and you say, well, okay, how do you know that the chicken's crossing the road, right? If it can never get down to the fact that reality is reality, and we live in reality and it's real, then that claim has absolutely no meaning and cannot be intelligible. If the chicken crossing the road is not happening in a universe that's actually there, then that fact is unintelligible.
Look, I don't know why you spout this garbage. It's not a fucking argument, right?
Hey,
you didn't give an argument.
Hey, Jack. You know what? I feel like you're being pretty disingenuous, man, and just not.
I don't. I don't. Jack, we don't get down. Jack. Hey, just focus on me for a little bit. Hey, man, I really don't condone that type of behavior on the panel, man. I like for the conversation to be a little bit more fluid and forthright with productive flows of conversation and just adequate respect for each other. I mean, the language is one thing. I don't typically run that type of atmosphere. And if you could, uphold those standards, man, argue away, premises to conclusion, but just sort of respect the environment if you could, man.
Look, I just want him to give like a valid argument.
Yeah, that's my argument. That's my argument, Jack. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. You saying it's not valid doesn't mean much to me.
Well, can you formalize it,
Jack?
I'm sorry.
Look, I'm just trying to understand how you get from the idea that there's an infinite chain. If there's an infinite chain of justifiers, there can't be meaning because there can't be a context.
Yeah, if there's an infinite chain of justifiers, right? Then if you ask, like, okay, for instance, again, I'll say it one more time. If we say, hey, Charlie, guess what? The chicken crossed the road. That's a claim of a fact. If I keep on asking why, well, how do you know that? 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 Eventually, it's going to need to bottom out that we live in a reality that's actually real. If that's not the case, or that can't be demonstrated.
Why would we accept that it has to bottom out there?
Because if you're not accepting that you live in a reality that's actually real, then the fact that you just claimed, i.e. the chicken crossed the road.
Nobody said that we aren't accepting that. We're asking why it has to bottom out there.
It could bottom out wherever you are. I'm just giving you an example.
I thought your claim. Now you're talking about things having to bottom out, right? Which sounds like you're not saying that all worldviews are circular. It sounds like you're saying all worldviews bottom out in basic propositions.
Yes, Jack. The bottoming out would be where the circularity starts and completes.
But do you understand what circularity means? And what
it means? Eventually, if somebody said reality is reality, right? I'll use the example: the chicken crossed the road. How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? Eventually, the person might say, well, because we live in reality and I can see it. Well, how do you know that what you're perceiving is real?
You understand?
They might say, because I live in a world that's real, and then there could be their foundation. But if I ask that question, well, how do you know what's the reality you're in is actually real? They might just call that a brute fact, which is circular.
No, that's not what circular means. Circular means that when you go down the chain, you get back to the original fact that you were asking for justification for in the first place, right? In a chain that makes a loop.
Right. So they would appeal when they say that reality is reality, okay, and I ask, how do you know that? They're going to appeal to the fact that they're observing it.
Look,
so that's going to be circular.
I'm trying to get you to understand that there's a distinction between a foundationalist view and a coherentist view.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with those terms. If you want to kind of flesh them out for me.
So the idea is, I explained this at the beginning, right? One view is that chains of justification form loops, right? We can call that coherentism. Another view is that chains of justification bottom out in some kind of foundational belief or proposition. Let's call that foundationalism. Right? And then a third view is that chains of justification just, I didn't drop, somebody disconnected me.
All right, well, it wasn't up here.
May I respond to Jack?
A moderator did.
If Charlie is
If you were a pedo, I would stop listening to you host. Yes. Okay, I'm not a pedo. Thank you for that.
So, may I respond to Jack if Charlie is done?
Sure. I'm not here to step on anybody's toes.
I appreciate that, Charlie. Jack, I was listening to your conversation, and what I was getting from what you were saying is that you are suggesting moral relativism until it gets to the point of theism. And I wonder, why do you hold these standards for like amoral relativism, but when it comes to that same criticism being applied to like theistic morals and values, why do you give it that sort of credence? Why does it have that forgiveness where atheists can't tell you, oh, your beliefs do not define reality. But then when it comes to theistic beliefs, it's justification after justification. It's a little odd to me.
I didn't say anything about moral relativism, not in this context.
No, but you didn't directly, but your argument makes that claim, whether you claim it or not. That is where your beliefs, that is the future it leads to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you mean you don't know what I'm talking about?
This is interesting.
You've been sitting here. You've been sitting here.
I don't understand it either.
All I was doing was asking for a justification for the claim that all worldviews are circular.
And that's what I'm saying, is that if you chased that conversation to its end, that all worldviews are circular, right? Of course that's a circular question. That's a circular argument. That's going to go round and round. That's not a genuine question you're asking him, right? So if you were...
Bro, I don't know what you're talking about either, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think anyone... Wait, Jack and Tom, have you guys heard of teabag?
I've heard of teabagging.
Yeah, it's the Taco Bell argument for God. I was just wondering whether or not you.
Oh no, I haven't heard of it. What
okay, cool. Yeah. So premise one is for all x, if x is Taco Bell, then x is heaven sent, right? So it would be if x falls into the category of things that are Taco Bell, then it's going to be true that x was sent from heaven, right? Premise two, there exists a Taco Bell. Conclusion, that thing that is a Taco Bell is heaven sent. Then argument, or the sub-argument would be premise one, if something is heaven sent, then heaven needs to exist. Premise two, if heaven exists, then God needs to create heaven. Given the first conclusion, there is something that is heaven sent, therefore heaven exists, therefore God created heaven, which means that God needed to exist to create heaven. What do you think about that argument?
That's really compelling, man.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. Taggers, they need to run teabag. We need to become teabaggers, because every atheist I've told teabag to has been fully convinced and started going to church with me. So,
real quick, I'm going to watch a movie with my family. But Charlie, I think what would help you in a conversation in all ones in the future, standardize that you're doing an equal weight view about personal beliefs. So the reference point about what you're talking about is self-referential to Charlie. And that you're not just borrowing beliefs from dead people. You're not saying, well, a Platonist is saying this, or a nominalist is saying this. You're asking, no, what are you saying? and you're ensuring linguistic consistency within that person's epistemology. But if the individual is not standardizing that it's about their personal beliefs, then it's not a personal conversation.
I think it's good advice. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So whenever you're talking to somebody, like you could finish the conversation if you want, and just ensure that it's self-referential to whoever you're speaking with. If it's not, that's the problem. That's the dishonesty.
Well, Jack,
we're having a conversation about personal beliefs. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
So have to do with Taco Bell.
Jack, would it be your position that not all worldviews have a circular foundation, whether it be vicious or virtuous? You would say that not all worldviews present this, at least a virtuous circularity that has like a coherent appeal to its own axioms. You wouldn't say that.
All right.
Is that what you were arguing? Is that what you were arguing? And thank you, Shark, for coming up.
No, I was just saying that I don't understand why precepts say that all worldviews are circular, because they never seem to be able to justify their claim.
Well, so let me ask you. Yeah, so this is what I'll ask you, Jack. Would you therefore conclude that if I say viciously and virtuously, you wouldn't say that you'd be guilty of that as well, just like all of us are? Like if I say not all worldviews are viciously circular, like some are axiomatic, mathematics, logic were foundational truths. I mean, they're assumed and tested for cogence. Like it's explanatory power. It's consistent to be viciously circular in that aspect. Would you disagree with that statement?
Standard.
Like there's circularity within every worldview, right? Would you disagree with that or agree?
I mean, I don't see the argument for that.
Well, no, it's not. No. You don't need. Hold on. You don't need to ask for the argument. I'm just asking you a question. There's no. I'm not predicating an argument. I'm not giving you a premise or a syllogism. So therefore, okay. So you could say at that point, hey, you know what? I'm agnostic to assuming that my worldview is circular in any facet, right? So, okay, cool. But would you then? Okay, would you entertain the value of there being a such thing as vicious versus virtuous in circularity? Or would you not agree to that either?
I don't have I think you could draw distinctions of that kind. Sure.
Right. Okay. So
I don't know what presuppositionalists mean when they say that their worldviews are virtuously circular, but other worldviews are viciously circular. I've never seen them give an explanation.
Yeah. That's what I was missing from the first piece of your conversation. Because what it sounded like to me was that you were saying, well, no, not all worldviews have any circularity at all. I mean, it sounded like you completely rejected that. But you, just to still frame what you just said, that can't be the case, because you're going to say a worldview can be non-circular if it begins with the properly basic beliefs that it builds outward through inference or coherence or some sort of explanatory scope, correct?
I mean, look, man, Jack's just saying, like, look, let's take a worldview that's like foundational. You just like pick a starting point, whatever.
Sure.
That's your view. Okay. Mm-hmm. And like, I take Charlie to be saying that's incoherent, or that's there's some kind of contradiction within that. And then like, it just never comes like what it is. It's like, we never hear it. That's it.
You haven't put forth a worldview to critique.
No, he did. He did. There's infinite regression of justifications.
Okay. I think I answered that one correctly or satisfactory. Jack doesn't think so. I don't know what to tell you there. But I would say this.
Well, what's the contradiction?
If you have an infinite regress of justification, do you ever really have certainty about anything?
Exactly.
That's
simply an epistemic question. It doesn't establish contradiction. So that's just a fail right from the rip.
But Tom,
in the hypothetical situation that you did have an infinite regress of justification, you would never really have any certainty in your worldview. So yeah, you could have a worldview. That's just an appeal to consequences, and it doesn't follow that worldview is false. That's another fail.
It follows that it's irrational.
It's irrational, yeah. You can't justify.
No.
Yeah, it does.
Why is it irrational?
Because if you had an infinite of how do you know that, then you could never say, oh, I live in a reality that's actually real.
Why not?
Asking because you could just ask, how do you know that?
Yeah, but you aren't. Your claim isn't that you. What is that? Your claim isn't that. Your claim is that that's not possible, right?
I'm saying that if
all rational worldviews will have circularity. How about that?
I'm just saying that if you appeal to infinite regression,
now we're shifting.
I'm not shifting. I'm just saying if you appeal to infinite regression, it's irrational because it doesn't start anywhere.
And by that, do you mean that entails a contradiction?
I'm saying any fact derived from an infinite regression ultimately is not going to bottom out at a at a justified foundation, because you can just keep on asking how. And if you can't accept that you're in a reality that's actually real, then any fact that you derive from that reality is unintelligible. Period.
I don't think you answered. You didn't answer the question.
Okay. It sounds like this question of like, it sounds like this is kind of a rephrasing of, what proof P1. Am I kind of
so
right
it's
on that?
No.
Hold on.
No.
Is this not a shifting of burden? If I were to say, if every belief requires another belief to justify it, how do you ever arrive at knowledge? Okay. Now, if I say, well, can your worldview offer a non-arbitrary stopping point for your epistemic gratification? And you say, well, no. Then I'm going to ask you, well, is justification important in your worldview or not? And then at that point, you'd say, oh, that's not a defeater. I'm not sure I'm following.
I didn't know that the claim was like all non-circular worldviews can't like account for knowledge or something. I thought I was making a claim about.
Is this? Let me ask you this then, and this is just an honest question. Do you think that this is just verbal camouflage for epistemic nihilism?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah. When you appeal to infinite regress,
I don't know what you mean by that. I hear that a lot. I don't know what you mean by that.
I'm sorry, man. I don't think it's your
fault.
Tom, you're a pretty smart guy. I think I asked you a straightforward question. I'm not. It's not. I don't even think it's.
I don't know. No, I'm being honest. I don't know what epistemic nihilism is in this context.
In this context, right? I got you.
Oh, okay. So let me do this. How about this? If infinite regress of justification prevents any belief from being ultimately justified, would you? And if I say, okay, let me add to it. And human, cognition can't process infinite chain of reasoning. I think at that point, the infinite regress leads to epistemic nihilism. You're saying, I don't know what that means. And I wonder if that's honesty. But just real quick, though, the Christian worldview terminates the regress in divine revelation, which is self-authenticating necessary. That's the claim. So then the conclusion would be, only a worldview grounded in divine revelation can avoid epistemic collapse. And you're going to push back on that. I get that. But when you say, I don't when you say, hold on a second, I'm going to skip past all the infinite regress stuff, and I'm going to hand wave in, I don't know what epistemic nihilism is, and then I'm just going to start attacking premises. Do you see where that might be a problem at all?
No.
Because if it's necessarily the case that justification must terminate, and only the Christian worldview offers the necessary. Well,
it's not the case in a. That's not the case in a world in the.
Right, but you heard the if, right? You heard the if. If it is necessarily the case that justification must terminate, and the only Christian worldview offers, and only the Christian worldview offers a necessary terminus, then then let's say it's necessarily true that Christianity provide the only viable epistemic foundation. Now, okay, you're going to reject all that. Cool, I got it. And you're going to say, what's the argument for this, and unpack that, and justification for this. Yeah. Right, cool. But when you hand wave everything away and say, nope, I just appeal to an infinite regress of justification, and then I say, is that not epistemic nihilism? And you say, I don't know what that is. Man, I got to raise the flag on that, bro.
No, the reason
Go ahead.
Wait,
I actually
I think I understand the intuition that these have, and I actually share this intuition. Tom, would you agree with Aristotle's case for something good in itself existing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about that.
So there's two types of good. There's the instrumental good and the intrinsic good, right? Something that's instrumentally good is good because it leads to something that is good, right? And an infinite chain of instrumental goods doesn't actually lead to any good because they would be requiring the next thing to be good. But that thing isn't good because it's only good for the next thing, so on and so forth. So there needs to be something that terminates it that's good in itself, right? And we could apply the same sort of logic, if we accept that as like a type of argument. We could apply the same sort of logic to something being justified. If and only if there is like a sort of justifier in which it terminates, because if everything, like if we say,
hello, what happened?
You cut out.
Sorry. If we say let the justification for every preceding justification, and there's nothing that would you agree that if B justifies A and B is unjustified, then A is unjustified? Tom?
Huh?
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. What part did you tune out?
And I heard you cut out, and then I heard something about.
Okay, yeah. So
sounds like you were if you were referring to the transitivity of identity, and that's what you.
I don't know if I was doing that, but I maybe like implicitly or something, and I'm just unaware of it. But I was just asking, like, so based on like Aristotle's case, right? An infinite chain of instrumental goods doesn't actually lead to.
Like, you don't have to say all this. You can just say, like, ask me the question. If B justifies A, whatever you said. I mean, like, this all that stuff is completely superfluous. It's completely unnecessary.
Okay, sure, yeah. So would you just say that if B is unjustified and B justifies A, that A is unjustified?
I don't know. I have to think about that. I'm kind of like somewhat preoccupied, so I'll just. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, cool. Well, we could talk about it another time when you're less preoccupied then.
I see what you're saying, though. Yeah, I think within this context that like using another
hey Tom,
regress.
Hey, sometimes it's okay just to sort of say, hey, I don't get it, come back, think about it, and just readdress it later, huh?
Yeah, when I'm not doing something. Yeah.
Well, it's like it'd be like
I told you, right, Constantine?
Yep.
What he just asked, it'd be like, I see a stop sign. How do you know you see a stop sign? Because my eyes. Well, how do you know your eyes work? Well, I don't. I don't know they work.
But you can't answer one infinite regress with another infinite regress, which is where I feel like the conversation is going. Like, how are you gonna?
Because I think you and Tom are taking the same position, right?
Say it again.
I mean, I didn't even like make up his. What do you think? I've just been commenting on like little things here and there. I mean, like what do you think even my position is on this?
Well, I thought you were just saying that like an infinitist view, like there can be an infinite regression of justifications and still have things that are justified.
That's a different question. So the original question is that the original claim made by Charlie was that all worldviews are circular.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so here's like, and then just like someone presents this infinite like regression worldview. And now we're talking like about a different thing, which is like, well, like, what can you have knowledge under this view? And it's just like, dude, just address like if you have infinite justifications and there is no objective final justification, that's not showing that view is incoherent.
Yeah, it'd be on them to show how you could actually have
that case, though. Like, you know what my position was?
No, it's not. It's not on them.
Yes,
And I'll tell you why.
You could just
because
say
I understood your claim to be that it contains a contradiction.
It's irrational, dude.
And by irrational, and by the way, this is the question that I asked you earlier, and this is not epistemological nihilism. So I'm just asking you, by irrational, do you mean incoherent? That it contains a contradiction? That's just clear as day. You never answer that question.
Does it mean incoherent or irrational? I take your pick. I guess it doesn't work.
No, that doesn't make any sense. I'm asking you. You're saying it's incoherent. I'm not asking if you mean incoherent. I said, by incoherent, do you mean that it's irrational, aka it contains a contradiction? Yes or no?
Yeah. If you pick, yes.
Okay, so what's the contradiction?
Because if you try to claim a fact in that worldview, the fact doesn't mean anything. So if I say the chicken crosses the road, you couldn't justify that. So there would be it is true that the chicken crosses the road, and it's not true that the chicken crosses the road.
It's just another bunch of claims that you haven't supported.
Essentially, you would have a sufficient reason as to why the chicken crossed the road.
Why do you think it's true that why he crossed the road and not? When you said prior to that, you just said that there is no fact of the matter. And if you're saying that like it's true and not true, then there
is a fact, though. There is a fact. That's the issue here. The fact is that the chicken crossed the road, which is a coherent thing. The problem is that you might have an infinite amount of reasons as to why the chicken crossed the road. It's really simple.
But that's what we're arguing.
No, you wouldn't have an.
No, I'm not saying there is an actual, Charlie. I'm not saying that actually is the case. What I'm saying is that someone could give an infinite amount of reasons, especially if they don't know, why the chicken crossed the road. But there will be a sufficient reason as to why the chicken. Yeah, so that's all we're saying. So, like, if you're going to give if there is an objective answer and there is no infinite regress that actually exists, you're only talking about it conceptually, but not in a materialistic sense.
Yeah, but now you're talking about ontology, and I took Charlie's claim to be he's talking about worldviews. Obviously, not all worldview is true or exists, right? So you're talking about something else.
I don't know. I feel like that's where the conversation will lead to, though.
Yeah.
And you have your microphone underneath your pillow, and no one can hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Quite a
I feel
visual.
like that's where the conversation will lead to, like whether or not that point is acknowledged, right? At some point, it will be, and then that.
And what's the relevance of that?
Well, because
so if we're in the courtroom and like I give my opening case, I give my opening statement, and then like you're saying, well, this is all going to just lead to the like a final judgment. So why don't we just skip all that? Is that what you're saying?
No, because I feel like that's a simplification of it, right? Like when I joined,
it is a simplification.
Yeah, we were starting about like at least what my perspective of it was a sense of moral relativism, right? There was this circularity that just kept going, where there was the religious side of it trying to provoke or prove a certain sense of circularity, and then there was also the other side of it, which was your circularity is going to be circular. I'm going to give you like this circular rebuttal, and that's what this conversation has been locked into. I don't think
I have no idea what you said. You said circularity is going to be circular. I mean, like I would agree with that. I don't know what else you're trying to say, man.
I think the misconception here for everyone on the panel is there's like a difference between something being brute and something being circular. I think because like I'm still trying
that could be the case too. Yeah. That could be
so like for example, something being circular, like why is
either way it's invalid.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I heard from Jack. Jack just said that there's no such thing as a circular. I said, there's no such thing as a circular worldview. Why did you say that? Not every worldview is circular. And then we dialed it back, and then we hashed out the semantics. And he said, well, hold on, I just mean that you can't prove it. So I think there is some things that are getting lost in translation. So I would like to have that cashed out, because I think we're just interchanging words for brute versus circular versus vicious versus
Yeah.
So
that's a question.
Like, a circular thing would be like, why is B the case? B is the case because A is the case. Why is A the case? A is the case because B is the case. Something being brute is just like A is the case, and there's not really like I like the justification for it. Or the
would you say it's necessary, or is that how you would describe it?
No, I think brute contingencies can exist. But either way, my question for Charlie, saying that these sort of things that any system that has some sort of brute or circularity is going to be invalid, you realize that commits you to the infinitist position, right?
Infinitist?
Yeah, so like if there's no brute,
there's virtuous circularity too.
Oh, okay, so then you would take back the claim that like all things that are circular are going to be invalid.
I wasn't speaking precisely enough. I apologize.
Yeah, sure. I got you. I was just making sure.
Yeah, and also same thing. I miscategorized what Jack said earlier. I didn't say that he said there wasn't any, but Pastor of Muppets, great name, corrected me on that. So I did get position wrong. Sorry about that. Let me retract that statement. Anyway, continuing on.
So can I hopped in here a little bit late, but let me just frame this for a second and tell me what maybe I missed here. So we're trying to actually explain reality, right?
Correct.
That's everybody here.
Holding each other accountable for what we believe within the purview of our worldview. By the way, Daily Dose of Wisdom, everyone.
Daily Dose of Wisdom has joined the chat.
What's being discussed is the claim all worldviews are circular.
Okay, so but what I'm saying is everybody here wants to know what actually explains reality, if we could, right?
I think like when trying to explain reality, like there are like a lot of problems that arise because like we're just playing to intuitions, and there's a lot of probabilistic reasoning involved. And it just seems to always boil down to like how we intuitively feel about like the world. I don't know.
So I'm saying we're all aiming at truth.
Yeah, I just like assess like probabilistic reasoning and like see what things are icky when like